The stars above Zorath-9 burned cold and distant, their light filtering through the thick, polluted atmosphere of my home planet. I stood on the balcony of the royal palace, my silver hair whipping in the wind, my forearms crossed tightly over my chest. Below, the city of Krylos buzzed with life. Hovercrafts zipped through the air, and the faint hum of energy shields protecting the city from the harsh environment filled the air. But I felt none of the vibrancy. My heart was heavy, my mind racing with the betrayal that had just unfolded. "Kaelara," a voice called from behind me. I didn't need to turn to know it was my father, Emperor Zorath the Fourth. His voice was deep, commanding, and laced with the arrogance of a ruler who had never been questioned. "Don't," I snapped, my voice trembling with anger. "Don't say my name like you care." He stepped onto the balcony, his regal robes shimmering with the insignia of our house, a serpent coiled around a star. His four eyes, a deep shade of violet, met mine. "You will not speak to me in that tone, Kaelara. I am still your father and your emperor." "You sold me," I hissed, my voice breaking. "You sold me to the humans. How could you?" My father's expression remained stoic, but I saw the faintest flicker of guilt in his eyes. "It was not a sale. It was an alliance. The humans have technology we need. Technology that will save our people from extinction. Their terraforming capabilities could restore Zorath-9 to its former glory. Would you deny our people a chance at survival?" "Survival?" I laughed bitterly. "You're trading me like a commodity to a species we've barely had contact with. Do you even know what their customs are? What their intentions are?" "The humans are not our enemies," my father said firmly. "Their ambassador has assured me that you will be treated with the utmost respect. You will marry their prince, and together, our species will forge a new future." "A prince? You mean a stranger? Human? Do you even know his name?" "His name is Prince Adrian," my father replied, his tone softening. "He is young, intelligent, and from what I understand, kind. You could do far worse, Kaelara." I turned away, my fists clenched. My father's words meant nothing to me. How could they? He had betrayed me, his only daughter, for the sake of political gain. I had always known that duty came first in our family, but I had never imagined it would come to this. The day of the wedding arrived too quickly. I was dressed in a traditional Zorathian gown, its fabric woven from the finest silks of our planet, adorned with jewels that sparkled like the stars. My silver hair was braided intricately, and my forearms were adorned with golden cuffs. I looked every bit the princess I was, but I felt like a prisoner. The ceremony was held in the grand hall of the palace, a room filled with towering columns and walls that shimmered with holographic displays of our planet's history. The humans had arrived in their sleek, metallic ships, their technology a stark contrast to the organic architecture of our world. I stood at the altar, my heart pounding as the doors opened to reveal Prince Adrian. He was tall, with broad shoulders and short, dark hair. His eyes were a deep brown, and his skin was a warm shade of tan. He wore a uniform of black and gold, the insignia of the human empire emblazoned on his chest. As he approached, I studied him carefully. He was handsome, I supposed, but that didn't matter. He was human, and I was Zorathian. Our species were too different, too alien to each other. How could my father expect this to work? The ceremony was a blur. I barely heard the words spoken by the officiant, a hybrid of Zorathian and human traditions. When it came time to exchange vows, I hesitated, my voice trembling as I spoke the words that would bind me to this stranger. I accept this union," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. Prince Adrian's eyes met mine, and for a moment, I thought I saw a flicker of understanding in them. "I accept this union," he said, his voice steady and strong. And just like that it was done. I was married to a human. The days that followed were a whirlwind of diplomatic meetings and public appearances. Prince Adrian and I were expected to present a united front, a symbol of the alliance between our species. But behind closed doors we were strangers. He tried to talk to me to get to know me, but I shut him out at every turn. I couldn't bring myself to trust him, to let him in. Every time I looked at him, I was reminded of my father's betrayal. One evening, as we sat in our shared quarters, Adrian finally broke the silence. "Kaelara," he said softly, "I know this isn't easy for you. I can't imagine what you're feeling, but I want you to know that I'm here for you. We're in this together." I turned to him, my eyes narrowing. "Together? You think we're in this together? You're human. You'll never understand what it's like to be torn from your home, to be forced into a marriage you never wanted." Adrian's expression softened. "You're right. I don't understand. But I want to. I want to understand you, Kaelara. I want to make this work." His words caught me off guard. There was a sincerity in his voice that I hadn't expected. For the first time I allowed myself to really look at him, not as a human but as a person. "Why?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "Why do you care?" Adrian hesitated, then reached out and took my hand. His touch was warm, gentle. "Because I believe in this alliance. I believe that our species can learn from each other, that we can build something better together. I believe in you." His words stirred something deep within me, something I had buried beneath my anger and resentment. For the first time I allowed myself to hope that maybe, just maybe, this marriage could be more than a political arrangement. As the weeks passed, Adrian and I grew closer. We spent hours talking, sharing stories of our worlds, our cultures, our dreams. I learned that he was not so different from me. He, too, had been thrust into this marriage by duty, by the expectations of his people. But it wasn't just duty that brought us together. There was a connection between us, a bond that grew stronger with each passing day. I found myself looking forward to our conversations, to the moments we shared. One night, as we stood on the balcony of our quarters, watching the stars, Adrian turned to me. "Kaelara," he said, his voice filled with emotion, "I know this isn't how either of us imagined our lives would turn out. But I'm glad it brought me to you." Tears welled in my eyes as I looked at him. For the first time, I allowed myself to feel the love that had been growing between us. "I'm glad too," I whispered. And in that moment, I realized that my father's betrayal had led me to something I never expected. A love that transcended species, a love that gave me hope for the future. The alliance between Zorath-9 and the human empire flourished, and with it, so did Adrian and I. Together, we worked to bridge the gap between our species, to build a future where we could coexist in peace. As I stood beside Adrian, my hand in his, I knew that my father's betrayal had not been the end of my story. It had been the beginning. And though the road ahead would not be easy, I was ready to face it, with Adrian by my side. For the first time in my life, I was not just a princess bound by duty. I was Kaelara, a woman who had found love in the most unexpected of places. And that was a future worth fighting for.